we're going to be using a rolling pin or a dowel, which you got in your toolkit, the template, a rib, the knife you got in your toolkit, a wire cutter, and these guide sticks, which are dowels. Okay, let's start with the clay bag, opening it up and cutting off some clay. That's what the wire cutter is for. Slip the plastic down, cut off about 1/2 inch of clay by placing the wire around the clay and bringing the two ends of the wire together. That makes a slice that starts your slab. Okay, be sure and clean off your wire. Put it out of the way, you won't need it. And cover up your clay. Clay gets dried out in a hurry, so keep it under plastic. Okay, I didn't mention we'll also need either a sheet or newspaper for the surface of where you're going to roll the clay. You want it to be smooth, so a sheet works pretty well. Plywood works well. You can pound it down like this. I'm starting to make it a little bit thinner just by hitting it on the surface. But actually, I can start rolling. If you want to use your own rolling pin, it is a little bit easier. Start from the middle and go out. However, the dowel works just as well. It's just a little bit smaller, so you do more rolling with your hands. Okay, start in the middle, go out. You can turn it over, start in the middle, go out. Now, we don't want it to get too thin. That's what these guide sticks are for. Go on each side of the clay, and that's going to be placed so that they will touch the rolling pin. If you happen to have, unfortunately, a crooked guide stick, you can see how this one bows. Make sure that it's placed so that the bow is not going to affect the thickness. So continue to go in the middle, come out. This takes a little pressure depending on how dry your clay is. And you can work up a sweat doing this. It'd be ideal to have the table lower than a rolling regular table. So you can kind of lean into it and apply pressure to that clay. Okay, I feel like now that mostly I am going on these boards rather than the clay. One way to check that is to cut off a little bit and see if it's thin and equal to the thickness of the cutting guide. This is just still a little bit thick, so I'm going to roll it a few more times. Place my guide sticks and roll. You can also see that each time I do roll, the clay is getting bigger. When it's thinning, it's going to be getting bigger. So once it stops getting bigger, you pretty much know that you've got the right thickness. If you test it again, it looks just about the same size as that dowel. So we're ready to use the template. If it will fit on that piece of clay, mine's a little bit short. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to take the clay, turn it around, straighten out my cloth underneath, and make it just a little bit taller. I could do that with or without these guide boards, but at this point, they might be far enough apart that you can't get your rolling pin on them. Now that looks like it'll fit. Okay, so you take your knife and cut along the template. Just get a nice smooth line. It doesn't have to be rocket science. This will be the top and bottom. Okay, I am going to correct that one a little bit. Keep it next to my template. Cut off the top. Cut off the bottom. I'm not going to worry too much, but these corners are at an angle. I'm going to cut just that small angle. So now I've got one side of my vase. I'm going to carefully pick it up and put it on a drawing board. So I can go ahead and do the other one. So maybe it goes something like that. And then in addition to that, we need a piece of clay that is about an inch thick. I use this ruler. This ruler is a little bit over an inch thick. Doesn't have to be exact, but this will be the other two sides of the vase. So I'm just going to, again, do the easiest way out and use my ruler. That's one. I'm going to put it on the drawing board. I need two. I'm going to cut another piece for the other side of the vase. And I'm going to use the same width piece for the base of the vase. So I'm going to cut a third strip. And it only needs to be about 3 inches. But I'm going to go ahead and leave that extra and put it on the drawing board. I'm going to leave this little piece of clay in case I want to have something just the right thickness. I'll put that on the drawing board. And I will go ahead and cut out this other side. So I will end up with all the pieces I need to construct the vase. I might need some additional pieces for a base or a top for the vase. But now I've got the 4 sides. And I'm going to put them, as you can see, they're very floppy. I couldn't work with it right now. I'm going to put it on a board to let it dry. So I've got the pieces laid out. Okay, we had several scraps that were left from that. It's a good idea to put them in a separate bag of clay. And maybe even spritz a little water in there and cover, again, make the bag tight so that they don't dry out. Okay. I have my pieces of the vase. The next step would be to bevel these edges. This is a bevel tool. It works by putting the part that's going to do a 45-degree angle flat on the board, put it away from you, and then slide it towards you. off comes a piece of clay that's 45-degree angles, a triangular shape that's 45-degree angles. Sometimes these can be useful. We're not going to use them in this particular thing. So it goes into the bag, the scrap bag. Always start with the easiest piece. Start here, put it next to your clay, and drag it towards yourself. Okay, going to take that away. I happen to get a little bit of a tear out of there. I don't know how that happened, but I'm going to try and piece it back in so I don't have to roll again. So I'm going to, the clay is the same wetness. I'm just going to squish it back on there, and I'll show you how to fix that later. I do have, okay, now I'm going to do the bottom on the board and pull it towards me. Okay, I want that to look nice on the other side, so I want to make sure that a good idea to smooth that with would be a rib. Smooth that back into the jar. By the way, this is the outside of the jar. It does have, I see some marks in it, which we should have checked first, but those can be gotten rid of later. Or if you choose to have texture, you can get rid of them soon. So I'm going to go ahead and bevel these edges that are remaining. That one's kind of in the way. Put it over here. Again, both sides. It helps to have it in a straight line. Helps to hold down the clay and pull it towards you. Okay, that one's done. If you want to check that one side is not as smooth as the other, this is about the same. So I don't care which is the right side or the wrong side of my pot. We are beveling the wrong side. So the clay is now wrong side up, or the inside of the pot. Okay, that one's done. This one needs a little more room. This clay is pretty wet. We haven't had given it a chance to dry out to become leather hard, which we could have done. The only reason we wouldn't wait well, it would be better to wait till it's leather hard, but you can do either way, like I said. So I'm going to continue just to show you all the sides that get beveled on the pieces. Okay, now if I wanted texture on my clay, it would best be done actually before you cut out the pieces. So let's go back and talk about that just a little bit. Let's say that you wanted a very simple texture that you like. You want this as your texture. Go ahead and texture that surface then all the way. And now would be the time to go ahead and put your template on. So for example, if that was the side of my vase and I wanted to use a ruler, which I'm trying to find, then I would now put that on there and cut the sides, even that side, because it has gotten a little bit misshapen. That's what the texture does. So it's a good idea, if I'm using this as a ruler, to go ahead and recut it after you've put your texture on. So now I have a textured piece. I would turn it over. Let's say this is, I'm just gonna make it a short vase. Okay, I would turn it over so the texture's on the outside because we're working on the inside, and then go ahead and bevel each side. You can see how texture does complicate things a little bit, but it's still workable. So this is perhaps dry enough to rebevel. Let's see. Put that up next to me. Yes. This time it's going through with a nice clean bevel. Okay, we're going to stop there and wait till the clay is leather hard. It will not jiggle like this. There's some clay that I had the pieces cut out. I wasn't ready to go ahead with the rest of the steps. So I put plastic on the drying board so that the water would not go into the clay. And I covered it up and let it sit for a couple of days. I open it up today and the pieces are still quite wobbly. So what I'm going to do is move them, since I'm ready to work with them now, I'm going to move them to a drying board, in fact, the same drying board, without the plastic. So I'm going to carefully place one, keep it straight. Place the next one, keep it straight. This is a good time to determine what's the right side of your clay. This one doesn't, both of them are nice, doesn't matter. This one, I didn't intentionally put that diagonal in there. However, it's kind of a nice touch. I think I'll leave that for the outside. So at this point, I'll put it down. So these have not been beveled. I was waiting for them to get a little bit harder. But by the fact that they don't have plastic on top, the fact that they are on this board, they will dry fairly quickly. In probably an hour, they would be leather hard and ready to construct the pot, which we will pick up in the next video.